can solve gut health. Its tentacles go everywhere. And so we can make an impact.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain. I'm Kali, and this is my husband, gastroenterologist, Dr. Partha Nandi. All right, so let's do a recap. Let's talk about what we've talked about and then also some ideas for the future.
It has been a fun ride, hasn't it? So
really
we've talked a lot about gut health and some of the diseases that are associated with the gut health and the connection between the gut and the brain. I think that we started off, and we can recap a little bit about the importance of gut health and how significant and how complicated the gut can be, even though the solutions can be relatively simple and anybody can do it and you guys can do it. But the gut is not just a simple organ where we used to think where food's coming in, digested, and then going through your intestine, but rather very sophisticated organ system where you have sophisticated neurological system where you have nerves in the walls of the gut. You also have the most sophisticated immune system, and the immune system of the gut keeps it so that stuff that's in your intestine stays in your intestine and doesn't go into your blood, and that prevents inflammation for the rest of your body. The gut produces stuff that's amazing, right? Neurotransmitters that can affect your mood. We talked about serotonin. 95% of your body's serotonin is produced by the gut, and so it can change the way your joy and how your motivation. So it's really important to talk about how sophisticated and how important the gut is. And then the connection, the superhighway between the gut and the brain. The gut talks to everybody, but its best friend, it's really like that song by Saweetie. It's my best friend.
That's my best friend.
We won't repeat the rest of the lines.
Is that my Bessie and a Tessie?
Bessie, that's right. So it's the Bessie and the Tessie, the gut and the brain. So they communicate with each other and they talk all the time. This bi-directional communication is so important because your brain health is so dependent on your gut health. So it's super important to talk about that. And then we talk about what is in that gut, it's the microbiome. And we've talked a lot about it, but it's worth repeating that they've got this 1 trillion member army that can really affect you in a positive way, meaning that if you give the gut microbiome the right stuff, the best foods and the best environment, it can create an environment that provides your gut wall integrity. Remember, we talked about this. The gut wall, right? One cell layer thick, poop on one side, blood on the other. And you don't want holes in there because stuff from the poop can go into your blood. And so having the right microbiome sets up the right environment for that gut wall to have the integrity. In addition, it also helps the immune system. The immune cells don't get confused if you don't keep bombarding it with stuff that it's not used to seeing. And so if the immune system inside the gut wall goes awry, meaning that it doesn't work well, you can create little tiny openings in the gut wall, which is called leaky gut. So the microbiome is important. Let's also not forget that we talked about not only preserving brain health, but maybe even preventing horrific diseases. And I think we talked about it's such a personal journey for me and Kali. For me, it was my dad. When he had the devastating stroke, that led to me thinking about what we could do to prevent stroke. And now, if I'd known then, right, what I know now, that not only could you prevent strokes, help prevent strokes with optimal gut health, but you could actually also affect the way people are after a stroke. So post-stroke recovery is significantly impacted by your gut health. So research shows, this is mice research, but if you take a young mouse, and we've talked about this, if you take a young mouse, right, and then take the microbiome of an old mouse and put it in the young mouse, and the young mouse has a stroke, then that young mouse often dies or has similar types of recovery as the old mouse. So its recovery is very different and worse. Okay, conversely, if you take the microbiome from a young mouse, put it in the old mouse, and the old mouse has a stroke, its recovery is dramatically better than other old mice, meaning that its recovery is like the young mice. It's suggesting that the microbiome is significant in not only just preventing stroke, but if you have a stroke, how you recover from it.
I think that is just wild. So do we need, again, fecal transplant for everybody, or?
Not, I wouldn't say that, but I think it's like,
You get poop and you get poop.
Everybody gets poop. So, but more importantly, I think changing your microbiome to make them more healthy.
Yeah, let's do it before we need extra
them
poop.
younger, right?
Yeah.
What's a
Wow.
young microbiome means it's a healthy microbiome, right? So if you can take care of your microbiome, it's going to take care of you. So maybe even if you don't prevent a stroke and you have it, perhaps your recovery will be better and you won't perhaps be disabled. My dad he survived the stroke, but he was disabled. Somebody had to help him with all of his activities for nearly a decade. That's no way to live, right? So if we can prevent that by just changing your gut health with strokes, it's phenomenal. And I think you have an opportunity. So for those who are watching, hey, listen, if you had a family history of stroke, or if you have risk factors for stroke, let's say you have hypertension, high cholesterol, history of coronary artery disease. So these things can increase your risk of stroke. You can then do something about it in a very unorthodox way, change your microbiome. In addition, we talked about Alzheimer's disease, right? So we now know, for a long time, we just say, hey, you know what? We've just gotten older. This is a disease of older people. That's it. Nothing you can do about it. Now we understand that Alzheimer's is a pro-inflammatory state, meaning that the inflammation in your brain is kind of out of control. It's unopposed. It's not needed, and your brain's inflammatory response and leads to things like amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles. So it's just fancy words to show the effect of that inflammation. And so the gut, as we talked about, is really responsible in many occasions, really responsible for beginning that inflammation, right? So when the inflammation begins in the gut, that gut wall we talked about, and the leaking happens, right? That you have little pieces of bacteria or stuff that's in the stool go into your blood, inflammation begins. That inflammation, as it continues, breaks through the blood-brain barrier. Remember, the brain has this barrier. It doesn't allow stuff to come from the blood into your brain. So when that has holes in it because of the constant inflammation, then you begin inflammation in the brain. That inflammation in the brain can lead to neurodegenerative diseases, including the number one cause of dementia in our country, which is Alzheimer's. And we talked about this. Every 3 seconds, people get diagnosed with dementia. Every 6 seconds, people are getting diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We can change the equation by beginning to stop inflammation right from the root cause, from the gut. So if you can stop it in the gut, you can stop these, neurofibrillary tangles, the amyloid bodies, and change the course of this devastating disease. And you and your family have been touched by it. And then maybe you can mention how this is so personal for you too.
Yeah, it's just, my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's at 63 years old. It was really devastating for my father. And we're seeing some of these memory challenges with him now. He's now only 73, but I just feel like he should have a good 10 more years, maybe even 20.
Oh, so, man, the guy.
I mean, he's like a weekend warrior, 6-pack.
Yeah, he would go on an appointment with Kali, and they would think that he is
my sibling.
Or her husband.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
true. Yeah.
They thought that because of the age similarity, that's how great this guy was. He didn't really have many medical problems at all. And this is the story of Alzheimer's, right? You're healthy on the outside, and inside, your brain is just getting ravaged. It's just getting bombarded constantly, incessantly, and you don't even know it.
Yeah. And the hardest thing is that it was just his worst nightmare. And so, God, I can remember 10 years ago, he would just say, gosh, if I lose my faculties, ever just smother me with a pillow.
That's terrible.
It's hard.
And so this is the story that countless people around the world, and it's not just continuing, it is exponentially increasing. The curve is like an Olympic skier, like it goes up like this. It's going up in every part of the world. As the Western diet becomes more and more popular, as Western habits become more and more popular, this is no longer a disease of North America and the West or Europe. It's now worldwide. So this is an opportunity for us, if you're watching, listening, to be able to change the equation and know that Alzheimer's is a pro-inflammatory state that can begin in the gut. And if you stop it in the gut, you can stop years of heartbreak and families just getting devastated.
Well, it's definitely something that I worry about in my life. I mean, listen, we eat pretty healthy. We do a lot of the right things. I do yoga. I meditate. We work out. I try to stay fit and young and run after my kids and all these things. And I think as I enter into the back half of my life, I really worry about, am I going to lose my mind? And what am I going to do now to prevent that from happening? So maybe there'll be more cures down the road when I kind of get there. But yeah, it's scary. I don't think I'm alone. Like if you don't get cancer, you don't have high blood pressure, you don't have diabetes, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going
the big stuff that kills us, number one, is heart disease and cancer. If you're beyond that and you've done everything else, you worry about losing your mind, right? And you're very physically fit. You don't really have any health problems. So
I don't smoke. We don't really drink,
Yeah, and you don't, not out in the sun, between 10 to 2 and use sunblock. That's the other one. We don't talk about skin cancer. It's a different disease state, but you do all the things that are right. The thing that now a lot of us have to worry about is, hey, am I going to lose my mind? So, recap, you're not powerless. Your health and your wellness is in the grasp of your hand. There's simple steps you can do. We also talked about Parkinson's, another devastating disease, very personal to us. Your grandma and and I knew Sally as well, your grandma, and she was a spark for our whole family. And how that spark was completely taken away, right? The dimming of that light, slowly, methodically. It was this relentless decrease in her mentation. It was terrible. It was terrible to see. It finally took her life. And so Parkinson's disease, for those of you who may not have seen the episode, is a disease where you're not making something called dopamine in a part of your brain called the substantia nigra. And we see in those patients that they have these things called Lewy bodies, which are just misshapen proteins, alpha-synuclein. And the amazing thing is, and why we're talking about this, is that we see those same misshapen protein clumps in the walls of the intestine. Remember, I talked about in the beginning of this episode that the intestine, that the gut has the most complicated, if not at the least the second most complicated neurological system, and they're called the enteric nerves. So in the wall of the gut, imagine the wall is like, like the onion peel, right? The stuff that the different layers of an onion. In one of those layers are the nerve layers, and in that nerve layer, you can start seeing signs of the same stuff that is in the brains of these folks with Parkinson's. And why is that a game changer? Because you see symptoms of Parkinson's much later than when you see symptoms in the GI tract. So constipation and bloating,
I know,
lots of people have it, right?
Yeah.
But when you have these proteins, these Lewy bodies infiltrating those nerves, they change the nerves of your intestine and the motility. So for people who are at risk or concerned about it,
to the gut.
Exactly. Well, in this case, what's happening is that this is going from the gut to the brain. We think that the inflammation's beginning
in the gut. That's
gut
right.
first hypothesis.
That's right. Gut first.
The alpha-synuclein is coming in the gut, forming this. And what happens is one protein that's misshapen causes the next one to be, and the next one to be. So you see it slowly ascending up the vagus nerve into the brain. And what's interesting is, and we've talked about this before, research from Duke University showing in mice and also in their in vitro research that they talked about, if you sever the vagus nerve, you no longer have this transport. So to me, there's a super, super amazing opportunity to stop this disease in its track, right? This relentless disease, stop it way before it starts. So these GI symptoms may start even a decade before. So what an exciting thing that if you have someone you suspect has this problem, then you can then change their gut microbiome, change their habits that they're having to really change the course of this amazingly destructive disease called Parkinson's. And so I think there's an opportunity there. Imagine if we could have told Sally that. Right? Years before. Right. I mean, we could have still had her. And I've said many times that the spark that Kali has, she enters a room and immediately lights up. It's kind of like you ever go in a room where the lights automatically come on. You walk in there and it comes on. That's your effect on the
nice.
room. And
Thank you.
Oh, of course, it's the truth. And anybody who's met you will tell you that. But that comes from Sally. She taught you that. And imagine if we could have her wisdom, have her spirit, have that spark for another decade.
And that's what we say to my dad. Like, how long can we keep him hanging on until we get more research, more treatments?
Yeah. And the opportunities for those who are watching or listening is, if you know of a loved one that is at risk, or if you're at risk, the time is now, right? The time to stop the train is not when it's right in front of you at 50 miles an hour. The time is when it's like several miles away and you say, okay, what can I do to prevent this train from running me over? And that's the thing. But people often wait. Oh my God, there's a train coming. I got to do something about it. Too late. Whack. Mm-hmm. And that's what the lesson is. That I'm not saying that you can't do anything about it when you have Parkinson's, but it's far more effective if you can prevent it. And we talked about these disease states where we can actually make an impact. And I think that what's wonderful in that is that you can make an impact using our 5-pillar method. And we've talked about this. Purpose-driven living. Not less than 7 studies that show that you can decrease the incidence of strokes, heart attacks, cancer, diseases that are killing us. Not less than 7 studies independently show just with purposeful living. Number 2 is what? Food and nutrition. And using not a diet, but just nutritional habits to feed your microbiome. Get that wall to be fully having full integrity, meaning that it's a wall that doesn't have tiny openings in them to increase the chance of inflammation, to be able to create neurotransmitters that can make you feel fulfilled and jump out of bed, not drag your ass out of bed where you're feeling like, oh my God, another day.
Right.
Your gut may be responsible for that.
Right.
What you eat has never been more true. Right? You give it crap and you give it a bunch of hooligan crap food, and you're going to get a hooligan behavior and nonsense where you don't feel like anything. That's what we talked about.
When you're down, it's sometimes difficult to get up and make the right food and make the right choices versus the comfort food, the mac and cheese or whatever.
And you're giving messages though, right?
But you really try to just force yourself, get up, you know what, I'm going to make a salad, or I'm going to go to the grocery store. And the more you kind of make yourself do those positive things, it's only going to help.
But we've got to be real though, right? So they're getting bombarded with messages. Something bad happened. Take your pint of Haagen-Dazs and then eat the whole thing.
You're talking about social media, like have some
not just
self-care
social,
and this and
television. It's like movies, right? Everything is like, that's what makes you feel good. When it's the absolute opposite. Right. You feed your microbiome and your gut the most horrific combination of simple sugars, you're going to feel worse.
It's like listening to sad songs when you're sad.
Yeah. At least that does something for your mind. This is absolute crap, and it's a misnomer. Right? You eat a bag of chips, and all this crap. And I'll tell you, it's a little bit. This is not accidental. Food scientists go right to those receptors in your brain that you feel temporarily satisfied. But your gut is like, what in the name of God is this?
Right.
Who is this moron we're living in, right? We're in this giant moronic creature who's giving us more crap when we're down, right? And that's what they're telling us. And they try to communicate with us, but we override it because of the stuff that is being given. And it sounds a little crazy, but it's not that far from the truth. When you think about, for example, you think about things like diet sodas, you think about cigarettes and what these people put in there to make the behavior even more compelling and
more
addictive, so that you can continue and reinforce that behavior that overrides all of your ancient information that's been given to you by your gut. So that, the whole saying that listen to your gut, we often don't, right? Because it overrides it, because the pleasure centers are being like, pow, pow. You're being overridden by the pleasure centers, which then go back to what's called your limbic system and reptilian behavior, which is instinctive. So you override any kind of thought to be able to do it. And it sounds very, like, oh my gosh, this is something that people are manipulating you. And they sort of are. And you have to remember that when you are feeding your body and your gut the bad stuff, you continue in this cycle of depression and anxiety. And we have a crisis of that. We have a crisis of suicide in young kids. Top 10 reason to die in America. for kids and teenagers is suicide. So all of a sudden, it takes on a very different and serious tone, that just what you eat may actually predispose you to be able to be more depressed, and uncontrolled depression, uncontrolled anxiety. It's not the only factor, but it's a major one. So I think diet is super important, right? And then we talked about movement, right? Sitting in your ass all day and ordering DoorDash and not moving, and then just looking at, the television or your social is not going to do it. We're creatures of movement. And if we don't move, our gut microbiome doesn't change. Your body is made to be creatures of movement. If you're not doing that, then you will suffer, and you'll suffer not only in your gut health, but your overall health. We talked about community and how we talked about the Rosetta effect, where communities that bond together and support each other can support overall health, but even gut health. We can see that your unrest is decreased with community, and also spirituality, and how we can use these 5 pillars to really be, to me, again, I talked about this, I think in one of the episodes, where you can, it's like Batman, right? Batman, who doesn't really have any intrinsic superpowers, but all of his weapons and his toys, his cool cars, make him undefeatable. And that's what happens when you're a regular person like you and I, and we arm ourselves with these 5 pillars. You're basically indestructible. Each one of those pillars individually, independently, increases longevity, decreases disease. When you put them together, it is like 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 is not 5, it's 20, because they're additive. So that's what's exciting about it. And we talk about being your own health hero. We are not powerless towards,
that's right,
against all these, to me, all these destructive diseases. We can fight back and we can win. And that's what's exciting about it. Not just saying, boo-hoo, it's going to suck and we're done, right? It's like we can really be badasses here.
And this is what you're doing to empower people from all over the world. Yeah. So it's nice.
Yeah, I think we're both doing it, right? So we're talking about this, and we're creating healthier families all throughout the world. And we know the power of community, that once it spreads, even amongst the community of the folks that are working with us today, almost everybody knows someone, or they're personally affected with gut health, and you can really make a positive impact and really change the equation.
You have covered a lot of information.
And I think it's important to talk about. Listen, we've talked about all the things that the gut can affect the brain. But, I come to you at home and talk about, patients ask me, well, what about my joints?
What about the body? Yeah,
right.
What about the body?
That's the joints and the heart. Mm-hmm. And what's exciting is that the gut really affects so many different things. Let's take autoimmune disease, for example. The same things we talked about with the blood-brain barrier, it can go into the joints. So if you have a leaky gut, and bam, if you have inflammation in your gut, that can spread in your body, and in some people, it can cause autoimmune diseases of the joints, right? We're talking about psoriatic arthritis, we're talking about rheumatoid arthritis, we're talking about lupus that disables people, right? I mean, one of my favorite players of all time, Venus Williams, I mean, she was shut down by Sjogren's and the diseases and the ramifications, that she would have been probably the best female tennis player of all time. I mean, I love Serena, but I thought Venus was
yes.
enormously talented, but shut down because of that disease. So it affects so many parts of your body, gut health. We talk about the number one killer, and it's in this country and in the Western world, it's cardiovascular disease. And we know that if you have the wrong gut microbiome, you can produce something called TMAO. It's a substance that's increased with increased mortality for cardiovascular disease. So the opportunity is amazing. So, I think, we talked about, we did this series for the Heal Your Gut and Save Your Brain. But I think that, if people get their shit together, we can really make a dent in many diseases. We can shut down.
You got to get your shit together.
That's right. We can shut down so many places where people are going to, when they're ill, right? Hospital systems. We would need so many places where people are waiting in line. I mean, you go to the freaking ER, you're sitting in there for 24 hours, and no matter how many more beds they build, it's still people
full
in the hallway, in the freaking hallway for 24 hours. It's outrageous, right? So, I mean, to me, if you can solve gut health, its tentacles go everywhere, and so we can make an impact. So I think of, future episodes we can talk about, hey, let's get our shit together. What do you think about that?
I love it. And I really think you're onto something there. As a matter
And we
of fact.
talked about it, but you looked up some more amazing titles here.
Let me take a quick look. Hold on.
When there's a word that is in the English dictionary that's a curse word, she's an expert and she'll find
I am
multiple.
an expert at
You are,
curse
potty
words.
mouth,
What are
potty
you
mouth.
talking about?
You are.
We're such good parents except for the 4-letter words. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, you 4-letter words. I stick to the 5-letter words.
Well, you're just smarter than I am.
Yeah,
Okay,
right.
here are a couple ideas we're going to run by everyone.
Right, good.
Are you full of shit?
I like that.
Talk shit.
Okay.
Shit talk.
Shit talk.
My personal favorite, deep shit with Dr.
I'm always
Dandy.
in deep shit
Deep shit with Dr. Dandy.
with my
Kinda
wife. I'm
like-
always in deep shit with my wife.
Kind of like deep thoughts with Jack Handy.
That's right.
For all of you Saturday
Deep
Night
shit with
Live
Dr.
lovers.
Dandy.
Bullshit. That's a
Yes.
good one.
You say that a lot, by the way.
And this shit is deep with Dr. Dandy.
I like this shit is deep too.
I do too.
But get your shit together is not bad.
Get your shit together. That gives the onus of the person thinking about what they're going to do to change their life
And fix it.
save their brain and
I
be
like
a
it.
health hero.
I think that might be good. We'll
Get
ask.
your shit together.
We'll
As
ask
a matter of fact, we'd love
Sean and Jesse
audience
also. Yeah, you guys
voting.
can tell us.
You guys can tell us what
do you think
ideas
it
you
should
like.
be?
This shit is deep is a fan favorite. So
But I like get your shit together though. So and you can get your shit together more.
you can get
You
your
can because I think it's becoming more personalized, and we talked about this between the last show and now that you can make healthcare more personal.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about these generalized kind of recommendations for people, like eat more, wheat bran and eat more oats and these kind of very general like fruits and vegetables, and then like and people are shaking their head. But it's nice that now we can custom make these
I love it.
these recommendations, right? And you and I, we again there are other companies, but you and I visited the founder of Viome,
Viome.
right?
Yeah, it's a great
we met
company.
him. We met Naveen Jain, who's the
Brilliant.
CEO, and because he is, and we felt like wow, we need to see what's going on, so we visited them and found out. But long story short, there are companies now like Viome that are coming up with personalized ways to find out, hey, what is your microbiome? How is your gut health? What are the indicators? Should we eat more cantaloupe? Should we eat more
kale,
broccoli or cauliflower, right? And so for those of you who are watching, it's getting to be an exciting time where it's the Kali's personal plan, not just anybody throughout the country. You're not being lumped into, because we know, right? I mean, even with medicines, not every medicine works for people. Not every technique works for people, and everybody's a little different. So I think what's exciting that's coming up in the future for me is that I can give people a prescription to get, their shit tested, and then they can get their shit together.
They can get their shit together if they their shit.
I'm here all
tested.
week, folks.
The shit is
Don't
deep.
forget to try the lamb and tip the waitresses.
So what's new with research with gut and brain health that's coming out, or maybe you feel like we need to find out more?
I'll tell you, the world of gut health has never been more exciting. So, we're just touching on some of the things we talked about, which is the gut microbiome. But we now have the beginnings of actually doing testing. So looking at the specific types of microbiome in each individual. So you can just give a stool test and then find out, hey, this is the composition. You get a report of your microbiome, then you know exactly what to be able to do for that, right? So specific foods, not to do this, not do that. So I think you're getting more custom reports on how to change your gut health. I think what's also going to happen is this translational research. So what I mean by that is that looking at things like Alzheimer's and saying, hey, what can we do and what can we put in the gut to be able to reduce this inflammation that's now going into the brain? Same with Parkinson's disease. So it's approaching these diseases not as just neurological diseases, but multi-organ diseases where the gut's involved. So the research is taking this evidence and then connecting into therapies. Like what can you actually give into the gut? I think firmly that postbiotics are going to be what we give to people. So Remember, prebiotics is the food for the bugs. The probiotics are the bugs themselves, the microbiome, and the postbiotics are the products that they produce. So if you can bypass the whole system and give postbiotics, you get the effects quickly. Remember, if there are trillions of bugs in your intestinal system and probiotics are just billions, even the ones you're giving with fermented foods, it takes a while for this to build up. But if you can shortcut it and say, hey, I'm going to give butyrate, right, which is a short chain fatty acids. I'm going to give a neurotransmitter. I mean, it's game changing, and giving it in the form that the bugs create is going to be challenging. But that's where the research is going, not just theoretically showing, hey, this is what we find in mice, or this is where we find even in humans, but now what can we do about it? That's the exciting future, to make a dent in these diseases therapeutically. So that's what's exciting. And we're going to write about this stuff, right? We're going to talk about how we can use these therapies, just like we did with Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain. This is the introduction. We can then heal your gut and then use this therapy to save your brain, save your heart, stop autoimmune disease, stop joint pains, all kinds of disease states that we know are affected by the gut. It's exciting. The future is exciting. You know, the way medicine is going to be practiced even in 25 years, I think is going to be indistinguishable to how it's practiced today.
So let's talk about AI. Do you think it's going to play a big role in the future of medicine?
I certainly hope so. You know, I love the fact that artificial intelligence can help us be faster, smarter, quicker. So right now, there's a paucity, there's a lack of resources, both with healthcare providers like nurses, physical therapists, physicians, everybody, because what's happening is that the amount of people that are getting sick are just increasing. And not just sick dying, but sick chronically with these diseases, partly about what we're talking about, which because their gut health is in such horrible shape that it's resulting in all these problems. So here comes AI. AI can, for example, in my field, right? So we're doing AI-based algorithms for treatment of conditions. We have in the procedures, I have an AI-assisted system where actually you can identify little polyps. So as I'm going through the colon, just taps me on the shoulder, metaphorically taps me and says, hey, what do you think about that?
That maybe you can't even see?
Correct. And almost always I can see it. Mm-hmm. But even if one of them were picked up by AI, that's possibly a life saved. So to me, having an objective system that can help you, right, that doesn't get tired, mm-hmm. doesn't get sick, does not show up to work, or doesn't feel like it's not necessary, or not important enough, or not worthy, or free of prejudice thus far. It's awesome. And then to be able to then using the algorithms to be able to identify therapies for gut health. It's unbelievable. And then eventually, right, I think as we progress more, you'll have, figures and actually creatures that will have AI that'll help us to be able to do more, to reach more people. Like if you go to northern Michigan, a gastroenterologist may come once a month.
Right.
And it's not like they're not suffering. No access at all. Mm-hmm. So in comes, and we produce an AI robot that can at least serve the population in some way. It's massively exciting. And what's nice about AI is that the learning is exponential. You teach them French and they get better in another task like medicine. You teach them medicine, they get better at plumbing. I mean, it's just unbelievable the way they learn, and it's exponential. So it's exciting to be able to be, in side by side with technology that's going to help us to get better. I think there's two ways to think about it. And again, it's like Marianne Williamson, right? And this is something you love to talk about. It's love and fear. It's a very binary choice. There are people that are fearful about AI and how it's going to destroy us, right? You have a number of movies that are saying that it's going to be the end of human civilization. But I tend to think that if we can give the right direction to artificial intelligence, it can be a blossoming age and period for our health, for our wellness, because we'll be able to have the help of these creatures, this intelligence and this data that we didn't have before. So I'm actually very, very bullish and optimistic about artificial intelligence, especially in healthcare and especially with gut health.
And I think a lot of people will find that refreshing, because I do think there's a lot of fear. So someone like you having this, as brilliant as you are with the work that you do, I think it'll mean a lot to a lot of people to hear that you're not afraid, that you're embracing it.
But I don't think we can be passive, right? We can't be lazy butts just sitting around saying, same thing, I'm going to do as little as possible to squeak by. You're going to be challenged, right? So no longer do you need to say 2 times 3 times 2 times 4 times 6 is equal to that. I mean, something is going to tell you that in 10 milliseconds. You have to evolve, and you have to be higher thought. You have to challenge yourself to go beyond your limits and not just do the least you can, but do far more than that. And, we talk to our kids about that. Our kids ask us, what's going to happen with AI? They're fearful.
They have a little fear.
Yeah, but we tell them, listen, you know what? Your capacity is infinite. Right? You're limitless. And that's what happens in healthcare. The stuff that can happen with AI is phenomenal. You can reduce medical errors, right? You can have treatment that's much more tailor-made for an individual. So I think it's exciting.
Any final advice? It seems like you've covered an awful lot.
I think final advice to me is there's always different approaches to me. Again, one of the 5 pillars, pick one step that you do with each pillar every day. Let's talk about diet. I mean, something as simple as drink agua, right? Wata. Drink the wataman. So drink the best drink in the planet, and drink some water, have in the morning instead of having, a fast food breakfast. Simple things you can do: drink water, have a smoothie, just have some oats, or what I do is have yogurt with berries every morning. Just simple things that you can do every single day that you can adapt. So, if you don't
get yourself in the habit. If you just train yourself.
One step, one thing every day.
And water, I remember you said this to your sister. I love it.
Oh, she's going to love it.
Well, she said this, I think, to a couple crew members, so hopefully she doesn't mind. She said she was not complaining, but you were like, drink more water. Okay, you said to her, I think you should drink more water. And she was like, okay, I'm going to drink more water. And you said, listen, what are you doing complaining about drinking water? It's water, for crying out loud. Like, how hard, you know what I mean?
Step.
It's God-given water. It's the best drink on the planet. So
yeah, and if you can
do it. You can drink more water.
And if you can put a fermented food in each of your meals 3 times or 4 times a day. I don't think you should stick to 3 times a day eating, just a strict kind of Western breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you can eat 4 to 5 times a day, smaller meals, it's how we always ate, right? So I think if you can do that, that'd be better. If you don't have a community, try to find one at work, with sports, online, spirituality, so many different ways of doing, these activities. You can do what I do, which is just try to find some time to meditate. If you don't know how to meditate, just do this. I mean, just think about the last time that all you did was think about your breath. And most people, it's been months, years that they've actually thought about consciously breathing and just following the breath into your lungs. The process is not that important. But when you do that, you stop thinking about, why did my husband or wife say that? Why is my boss so mean? Why did that guy, people give me the Michigan hello when I drive. Do you know what the Michigan hello is? It's the third digit. They raise their third digit. In Michigan, that's how people greet you when you drive. They put up their third digit to greet you. So you don't say, how come that guy, flipped me off when I was driving, when you're breathing. So what it does is causes you to have a little bit less unrest. So I think if you can do those things, and then the hardest thing is say, really, what makes me happy and what drives me? It may not be that giant car or the giant house or whatever it is. This, we call it the surrogates. Right. Some people continue to search and search and search, and you find people that seemingly have everything, but they continue to have problems. And the part is that nobody's ever asked them to take an exercise in finding out what they really want to do. I ask my patients sometimes, what do you want to do when you grow up? And they're 50 and they don't have an answer because they've just existed and persisted and just continuing like lemmings. We just keep going from the one thing to the next. You never stop to tell yourself, what is my purpose? When we were hunters and gatherers, right? When saber-toothed tigers or whatever was chasing us, our purpose was very clear. It's to live, and not die. It's to have lunch and not be lunch, right? So we had purpose. The moment we've got all this stuff done for us, people don't know what they want to do. And that is a huge source of unrest. And again, dis-ease, right? It's a source of disease. So, I gave you a very long answer to your simple question, but I think if you can just pick one activity from each pillar to do every day, even in several weeks, it'll be a game changer for you. You will see effects in your life, in your body that you didn't see before. Sean and I were talking, I think all three of us were talking, how now, because we typically don't eat processed junky food, when we put that in our body, you have a reaction. It's like, what just happened?
Right
because
away.
Because your body and that trillion-member army says, you know what, I don't like this. And I will let you know why I don't like it. And you better listen to me. So if you don't listen, you continue on that behavior, eventually you override it. But listen to your body and it'll tell you. And those habits become unbreakable. They become a part of who you are, right? When you make habits, right? I think there was a great book, like, what is it? The something habits of very successful people, right? If you do it consistently, you really can change the game for yourself and be the best version of yourself. It's just very clear to me.
So what next? Where can listeners find more information from you? What are we doing to get these listeners involved and be part of our Health Hero plan?
Yeah, so multiple ways. And you know this because you're so intimately involved in this. I love our website, askdrnandi.com. We'll put it up for you. It's pretty simple, askdrnandi.com. We have all kinds of information there. We're on social and digital. So, all of them, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's the same handle. And why that's important is because we share updates. So, we can't talk to you every single day, but listen, if there's an advance in the treatment for Parkinson's through the gut, we'll let you know.
Yeah, he'll text me and say, oh, this study came out today. When I get home, we're going to TikTok about it.
And I do the health news in our market with the ABC affiliate. So I'm always talking about the latest breaking news. So we'll give that to you if you just, come on in and we'll try not to give you any junk if possible. So, but again, you take what you can and do the best from it. For me, if I can just take one small bit of information from looking at a post or some blog or an article, I'm happy. So we'll do our best to get that to you. And then we're going to come up with a really an exciting movement for you. If you're interested and you feel as passionate as we do that gut health is important, we're going to start a movement. And then stay tuned. If you go on any of our social sites or our digital sites, Ask Dr. Nandi, we'll share that with you. I think it'll be exciting because we need a community, right? A community of health heroes to truly talk about gut health and pass the word along to millions.
And if this has been resonant for you and it's of value or interest to you or your immediate family, please do share it and tell your friends about it. It would be we would be appreciative of that. Partha works extremely hard.
Even tell 10 friends, not just
10
one.
10 friends, that's right. Yes.
Even better than one.
That's right. But the book, Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain, is available October 1st, wherever books are sold, and it's coming out. It's available for pre-sale now, and so we hope you take a look at that. And there's definitely more insights and tricks in that book and tips, and we hope you find it valuable.
Yeah, it's a labor of love, right? You can tell this is very personal for us. I mean, we live our life. We're not just telling you this and then going out in the back and smoking and having two giant double cheeseburgers with cheese whiz on them, right? This is a labor of love for us, and we walk the walk, and we'd love for you to be able to share in that. I mean, we'd love all of you to be able to live these healthy lives. Some other sources that are books that I think would be great is Emran Meyer's The Gut Brain Connection. I think is a really good one. Book. And it came out several years ago, but it's still very valuable. And again, we will pass on any blogs or information that comes up from other sites. And we're looking forward to more episodes as we delve into other organ systems. And depends on how it goes. I think it's going to be get your shit together.
Yeah, we're going to be getting
Dr.
our shit
Nandi.
together and asking you to do the same. So
That's right. With other organ systems.
it'll be a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun, babe.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I am so proud of you.
Well, I'm excited to be working with you.
I'm
proud of
inspired by you. I was just telling my niece I'm not a crier, but I'm going to cry again. So thank you so much for all this hard work and everything that you do to help so many people share
always
this.
a
I mean, it
pleasure.
is work. It's work for you.
It is, but it's a labor of love, and it's lovely doing something with you like this.
Yeah, you're a lot of fun.
It's awesome.
So until next time, until we get our shit together again, stay good to your body, stay good to your brain.
See you later.
Yeah.
Pow.
Bye. Make sure you never miss an episode by following on Apple Podcasts or subscribing wherever you listen.
And if you want to learn more, get a copy of my book, also titled Heal Your Gut, Save Your Brain, available everywhere books are sold, October 1st.